was like, you guys come in for the podcast one day, I'm watching The Raid, and I've got a blanket over me.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello!
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Yo, hey.
And today, we're going to be going back to our Best of the Decade bracket,
Woo-hoo!
Best of the 2010s. We're going to the East region.
Oh, that was a good announcer voice there. Very Jim Nancy. We're going to the East region.
We're going to the East region, where the number 1 seed Duke is playing the 16 seed Creighton.
That always happens.
Yeah. But a bunch of movies here. I actually rewatched 4 of these.
Ooh.
In preparation for today. Randomly, let's go to the one that could piss everybody off right off the bat. The 8 seed Spider-Man Into the Spire Verse versus the 9 seed 12 Years a Slave.
Oh my God.
This is obviously not fair.
No, obviously these are difficult when movies have a sort of very difficult theme to go along. This is like when Schindler's List was in the 1993 and the all-time brackets and everything. It's like Schindler's List is a really awesome movie, but also we tend to want to be like, well, Schindler's List has to beat everything because it's so important, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thematically, it's very important.
Yeah.
And this goes up against anything.
Right.
It could go up against Inception.
Right.
And we're talking about 12 Years a Slave, obviously. It's going to be an unfair matchup, essentially, to that movie thematically.
Right. So I think possibly our job here is to weigh whether or not the artistic merits of the movie itself go up against whatever it's going up against. And if there's a tiebreaker, then its importance is probably going to end up being the deciding factor. But if you like, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse more than this movie, then we should vote that way.
Yeah, and I mean that's sort of the beauty and the ugly of this whole bracket is that we get these matchups like Coco and Deadpool, where we've got movies that have no business ever being argued. This is an interesting case for me. 12 Years a Slave is so disturbing that I said after watching it, I don't think I'm ever going to watch that movie again. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad I saw it, and the things that are disturbing about it are disturbing on purpose, because if he doesn't linger the way he does on certain, there's one beating scene and there's a hanging scene that just, when you're watching it, feels like you want it to end because you don't like looking at it, but he has to draw it out to make you understand exactly what it was like, because you're watching a movie, so you're always sort of detached from it. Yeah, there's a scene in there where somebody is being hung and everybody just goes back to life in the background behind them, moving around.
Just leaving him.
Yeah. And like reaching with the toes to try and hit the ground and not actually hang.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to watch. And it is a really important movie. It's not without its issues with the Brad Pitt playing the white savior sort of thing that is common in a lot of movies that deal with race, where he's this white guy who comes along in the South and sees this injustice and decides to take this case upon himself.
This was very based on reality, the Solomon Northrop thing. Apparently it was combed over by historians, and they were saying a lot of this is very, very accurate. Do you know, I don't know if that Brad Pitt character was real, because he ended up getting away from slavery. He was always a free man. Right. But he ended up getting back to his family. I don't know in reality how that happened.
See, again, I'd have to research. I feel like I remember reading some criticism of Pitt as producer of the movie, inserting himself into the story in this role. I also read criticism of the book in that, most of what is in the book, we're just taking this guy's word that all this happened. It's his book, right? It is. Yeah. And I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm inclined to believe it did. It's certainly a story worth telling. But it wasn't without its controversies.
I got you.
even if that character was real, none of that way he portrays it feels real. It feels like it feels like he should probably have put another person in that role.
That's
Because
true.
everything, even if that's a real character, then you just look like the White Knight character.
Just switch with Fassbender.
Yeah.
Let Fassbender play that role, and you play the.
God, can you imagine Brad Pitt in that role?
I think he would have done. I mean, I have come to respect Brad Pitt as an actor way more than I ever did 20 years ago.
I don't think he's ever tried anything like that, though.
Not that evil, but even Fassbender, I'm not sure has done much that evil.
No.
I guess not. You could just see. I mean, he inhabited that role.
He
It
did.
would just be difficult to see Brad. I would love to see him try a role like that to really stretch.
Yeah.
Because I think he probably could. I think you're right.
Yeah.
But Fassbender just inherited that evil.
Yeah, I had this theory when I first watched this movie that a lot of some of the evilness of that Michael Fassbender character stemmed from his inability to have sex. Basically, there was like that was the only way he could get hard was when it was violent.
Yeah.
So like that's what I think. That's what I was. I think that's what I initially thought when I was watching this. It was some sort of sexual dysfunction that was causing him to be as far as the movie was concerned, saying how this is why he is the way he is and everything. Yeah, Steve McQueen made this movie because he felt like slavery hadn't been depicted correctly before.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you look through the history of it, a lot of time, like especially in the early days where they made it just look like it was the grand old time, you know.
Yeah, Song of the South type of thing.
It Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
It just they never really showed didn't show that brutality. So he made it purposefully brutal for this reason, exactly as Jeremy was talking about and everything. So, and the story is so, God, I mean, a guy is free and then just gets captured and they just say, well, you're a slave. And now, 12 years he goes under that. He was a free man.
Yeah. And the end of this movie is so fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Too, because it's triumphant, obviously, but obviously his wife has moved on and gone to It's a really good cast though.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
You know what's crazy? Like it's all these great actors, Giamatti and Fassbender and Pitt and all these guys and Lupita Nyong'o, and then there's Taron Killam, who's one of the guys that
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
But yeah, it's a terrific cast. It's the most well-made movie that I probably won't be watching several times.
This won
again.
Best Picture?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's going up against Into the Spider-Verse?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Well, if it's possible to love a movie with my whole heart and call it an A+, but still think it's been overrated, it's Into the Spider-Verse.
You think it's maybe, I mean, obviously it's been out for a while and people aren't, it's not on the tip of everybody's tongue. It was starting to kind of mediate a little
I think
bit,
so, yes. For the first 6 months after it came out, there was so much hyperbolic noise. This is the best superhero movie ever. Don't even, like, the conversation is over. And I'm like, it's great.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
Yeah.
It's not that great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I guess there's not very much to compare it against, but I'm hearing this Rogue One is in the top 3 Star Wars movies of all time.
See,
if not
this
number
is-
one.
This is a generational thing, I think. I'm seeing that a lot too, and I think part of it is we're old, but part of it is just trying to reconcile with how much we haven't loved this new trilogy, and we want to have something about Star Wars that we love. And I think, honestly, if you look back, Rogue One will shake out in the top few of this modern era of Star Wars, but I don't think it's above Empire.
No.
Or
No.
The first one,
or the first one, no. I think
Or
it's
not even Force Awakens for me.
No, I mean it's better than, in my opinion, Solo, and it's better than Last Jedi, and it's better than.
it's the thing. Once you have 11 movies to compare it against, there's so many bad ones now.
Yeah.
Rogue One is up there.
Yeah.
But I don't know about top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Spider-Verse, I haven't seen Spider-Verse probably since it came out. I don't think I've seen it since.
Oh, really?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it since. And the same thing with 12 Years a Slave, by the way. I haven't seen that since it came out.
Mhm.
It we talked in the mini pod about how we didn't realize if it was blurry on purpose or if it was blurry on accident. Right. It's blurry on purpose at times, or it's, I don't know, forced perspective, or I don't know what you would call that.
They're going
effect.
for a thing.
They're going for a thing. It's distracting as shit to me, man.
Yeah, me too.
Even though I know it's intentional, I mean, there's so much to love about this movie in terms of the performances, the wackiness, what they're going for, like the high-mindedness. But that is super distracting to me.
What I love about the movie is two things that really stand out, I think, where they excelled the most, and that's not the animation style, but it's voice work. And then I guess you would call this storyboarding, but the way the film has so many frames that feel like a living comic book. Like, for instance, when he takes that leap of faith and falls, there's that one moment I've gifted a bunch where they like zoom in on him like every other frame, and it's like bah, 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 bah. And it's kinetic, man, and it gives an energy that even live action doesn't sometimes have. And so I've seen it twice. I need to watch it again. I love it. It's probably it's right up there with Spider-Man 2 for my favorite Spider-Man.
Wow. It's on Netflix now, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It's just great. I love Miles Morales. Very smart of them to give us a story that had Miles Morales and Peter Parker, so that fans wouldn't like have an excuse to turn their nose at Miles Morales. We gave you both. We actually gave you two Peter Parkers in this.
Yeah,
movie.
we gave you a Death of Spider-Man. That was Chris Pine, right? Was that first one?
I think so. Yeah.
We gave you a Death of Spider. You get everything. It's like a gift basket of Spider-Man. Especially if you're like you're super into Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
right?
And the Spider-Verse, the multiverse kind of idea. Comics, DC, Marvel, all kinds have played with this for a really long time. But this movie handles it really well, and it just feels like multiple Spider-Men in one movie. The whole concept sounded bonkers, but they just nailed it. So what my hope now is that Lord and Miller stay involved, even though they weren't the directors, and that we don't get a Lego Movie 1 and Lego Movie the second part situation here, that when we get another Spider-Verse, we're doubling down on the talent and not like giving us Lego Movie Part 2.
Yes, yes.
Pulling away from
I agree.
All right, so which one do we want?
12 Years of Spider.
Very nice.
I'll vote.
Go ahead.
I vote Into the Spider-Verse.
All right.
Into the Spider-Verse. I'm going to do the same thing. We've discussed the importance of 12 Years a Slave. I don't want to minimize that, obviously, just like with movies of this nature, like Schindler's List and stuff like that. It's a more important movie for sure, but Into the Spider-Verse is I like it better.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, if this was an importance bracket, 12 Years a Slave probably is going to win the entire,
maybe the whole thing.
Yeah. But I'm going to go with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as well, even though I haven't seen both of these movies since they came out. So
it's so much fun. I'll tell you what, Into the Spider-Verse, where it really starts to move is when they go out to the Catherine Hahn, the Lady Doc Ock thing, and they're swinging through the things, and like he's still figuring it out and everything, and they're trying to elude her, and they got the computer and everything, and you got Spider. That's where it really like takes off.
Jay Johnson's so funny.
Yes, he is.
Excuse us, we're on a yawn break.
Yes. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse moves on. It will go up against the winner of this matchup here: Inception versus Deadpool. Inception's the 1 seed versus Deadpool, the 16 seed. Hard to believe that Inception is 10 years old, right?
It really is. Because I am still blown away by its visuals when I watch it today. And there are movies from 2010 whose visuals do not still blow me away today.
Yeah.
And so, Nolan always does something impressive. Even if you don't love the whole of each Nolan movie, I tend to. There's always something new, unexpected, and smarter than you. Or at least that's how I end up feeling.
He's really good at marketing these movies too, because like the teasers for Inception did not tell you anything.
Yeah.
All you knew was DiCaprio was in it, and that there was like maybe something kind of wild you hadn't seen before, but you didn't know what it was about or anything. And then finally they came out with that first trailer, and you're like, wow, holy shit, this is like a whole new thing that he's just made, isn't it? Kind of like what I feel about Tenet.
Yeah.
Tenet feels that exact same way that Inception did back then. Yeah, Inception is so very, very excellent because we haven't seen anything like this before. The idea of going into dreams and then going into dreams of dreams, and the calculus involved with all the time and everything, the kicks, all these things you think about, like how, like when they're down in that deepest part and everything, like the guy who's driving around in the van, like to him it's just this simple drive, but to them it's like, maybe a month worth. It's not a month, but like just it's an insane amount of time for them, and then for him it was just like, it's like a trip down the road.
Well, and then once it's all stacked, you got the guy in the van, you got Gordon Levitt trying to set up the kick in 0G because the van is falling off, and then you've got the other group down in the snow fort base. All three of those action things are going on at the same time, and it's just I'm telling you, Nolan is unreal. He's on a whole nother level than anyone else, at least in terms of ideas. And in terms of, directing, like, Fincher's up there too. But
he's now you guys did the Cinemasins video while it was still fairly short, right?
Yeah.
So did you get into like the practicalities of like the time disparities and stuff like that?
No, I don't think so.
Or I'm just wondering if we did this today, like digging into it. There's so much exposition in this movie, but necessary exposition, right? Like you have to explain, you have to have the Ellen Page character as the new character to explain all this stuff. And so you got Gordon Levitt explaining one part of it, and then DiCaprio drinking his tea while the universe is folding up on itself. And then you got Tom Hardy doing his thing. And it's almost all like in passing. Like they're saying, well, this is what happens when you get a totem. This is all that stuff. Occasionally to me, it gets a little forced, but it's also necessary. I don't know how else you would do it, especially big ideas like this.
Yeah, the main thing that the movie does, like when it came to Sin's purposes, like it is insane how much he tries to cover his ass on everything. Yeah. Like every single thing has a reason and everything. And so I think we sinned that, quote unquote. There were a lot of other things in there that would probably do that video differently, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things in there that I don't think that the totem thing makes sense for Cobb, even though a lot of people sort of tried to explain that his real totem is his wedding ring, which doesn't make any sense at all.
I've never understood that either. It could
doesn't make sense, but there are a lot of people who believe it.
Yeah.
And but he believes his totem is that top.
Yeah.
Even though it was Mal's, and you can't use anybody else's, or else
that's explicitly stated.
You're right, and so I don't know why he's so, I don't know. He believes that the top is his.
Yeah.
His maybe it's been over time, and maybe the rules were different when they started it. I don't know.
Maybe so.
And there's a lot of people on the internet, and I met one recently, who think everything in this movie is a dream.
I've actually considered that theory.
Well, it's defendable if you want to argue that. Sure. I don't like that explanation.
I don't either, because it invalidates the whole thing. It's like Joker. I mean, it's obviously different movies, but it's like Joker. Oh, this didn't happen. None of this happened.
Yeah.
What you just saw was bullshit, but it was entertaining bullshit, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck you.
Right. But
hey, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah. But I've discussed this before. But there's dialogue that's barely perceptible at the very end of this movie where Cobb is running into his kids, and at the very beginning of this movie he's washed up on a shore, and there's the Ken Watanabe's castle or whatever. And at the very end of it, he asks what he's been doing with what the kids have been doing all day, and his son goes, "Well, I was making a castle in the sand." And that's one of the things that people point to as well, maybe this whole thing has been a dream all along. A lot of people believe this whole thing has been set up so that Cobb will go back to reality, and this was a whole way of getting that idea incepted into his mind. There's so many ways you can go with it. That's why Inception's a very good movie.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Is this? Would you put this as Nolan's best?
No.
Or would you put Dark Knight up there?
Prestige.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Prestige, yeah.
Then we can talk about what's second.
Yeah, it's weird. It'd be a crowded place for number one. I think The Prestige is my favorite too.
I think so too.
And then it's either Dark Knight or Inception or even Interstellar.
Yeah, that's crowded.
Yeah. So,
and then Tenet. I'm pretty sure Tenet's going to be up there.
Just put it up.
We might as well go ahead and just put that there.
Just the trailer alone.
I haven't even seen
in
it.
IMAX.
Yeah,
it's like his third best movie.
Right. Inception goes up against Deadpool. Deadpool obviously was a big surprise for me, and ended up being a really funny movie. Really good take on comic book heroes and everything. We all like Ryan Reynolds.
I think we're all thinking the same thing. But do we want to throw any more praise on Deadpool before we bury it?
I mean, we talked about it in the play-in game when it beat Coco.
Right. Beat it like the redheaded stepchild it is.
I mean, Deadpool. All the protagonists are great. I love Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, and Colossus. You were saying that this is the closest Colossus to the comics that
I've ever
right?
seen. Yeah.
That's how he's supposed to be portrayed.
Oh yeah,
because in the first trilogy, he was just like a buff dude. Right?
He was a big buff white American kid.
He's supposed to be Russian.
Oh yeah,
okay.
He's not American, and he's also super smart. There's lots of qualities they got right about him, but he's always pestering Deadpool.
Yeah,
it was a perfect portrayal.
Well, the protagonists are great. The antagonists in this, I mean, even though they say some stock generic villain in the opening credits, it's a stock generic villain.
Yeah.
I wish there would be just a little bit more meat there, or the dude would have. I don't even know who played him. I forget the guy's name.
Ed Screen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. See.
Well, he recently backed out of a movie because he had been cast in a character that was traditionally Asian, and he didn't want to appropriate or take a role.
Interesting.
And got some good press for that. But the villain's not very good. Also, I'm pretty much tired of any superhero movie where their girlfriend is in danger in the final act.
Me too.
Sam Raimi did this to death. Almost all the Batman movies have done this. Deadpool had to do it. The movie making fun of superhero movies
I know.
had to do the same thing every superhero movie does. And Spider-Man Homecoming did it. And
Yeah.
Spider-Man Far From Home did it. And I want either no significant other, or that significant other is never in peril and is just saving citizens. Save the citizens.
Spider-Man Homecoming doesn't do that, does it?
Well, the girl he loves is at the top of the Washington Monument when the elevator breaks.
Oh, midway through.
Midway.
Okay.
No, you're right. You're right. No one he loves is in danger in the climax.
Right.
But yeah, you're right.
So yeah, I'm gonna go Inception.
Me too.
Let's make it a threequel.
Okay. So Inception now goes against Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I'm gonna throw that thing up against many comic book movies and see what happens.
What's weird is that in this region has probably the highest concentration of superhero movies, comic book movies, of anything else, because I didn't want to put a bunch of comic book movies. You can't ignore that this decade.
Oh, no.
This most recent decade.
I agree.
Let's do the 6 seed Black Panther versus the 11 seed The Intouchables.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. Never thought we'd have to compare these two movies.
Yeah, and here's what's difficult is that my heart goes Intouchables because it's like I only saw it the once though, and I just remembered loving it, thinking it was like really touching, well acted story of an unlikely friendship. I've seen Black Panther like 5 times, and I don't immediately think the quality is the same, but I have a lot more time spent with it. I have a lot more memories about Black Panther.
I have a very specific and awesome memory about the Intouchables, though.
What is it?
Because I watched it in Paris.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was after a long day of like just walking around, like 20 miles around Paris. We finally get back to the hotel. Yeah, the kid's asleep. The wife is asleep. I turn on the French TV, like Home Alone, over Jimmy Stewart. Yeah. And thankfully the Intouchables is on.
That's awesome.
And I get to watch almost the entire thing. Of course, it's in French. They did have the subtitle option on the TV. And I thought it was it was very cool in that environment, seeing a French movie like that. But also, I mean, this is like one of the like up there on IMDb. It's like one of the best movies of all time, highest rated of all time. I thought it was just absolutely charming and touching and extremely well acted.
Now, had you already seen the Cranston Kevin Hart one
I still haven't
I
seen
still
that.
haven't seen that.
You don't need to.
I don't want to. In fact, that almost taints this.
It almost
You know what
does.
I mean?
It's like let the right one in and let me in.
Yeah.
And I know it. I guess this is how it works, right? Like certain American people will never watch the Intouchables because it's subtitled and in French.
Mm-hmm.
If they make an American version with faces they recognize, they'll watch that one. But I don't know that makes them go back and watch the original.
No.
No,
No, if
usually.
anything, the opposite.
All's happening is a studio in America is going, no Americans will ever watch this amazing movie. Let's make an Americanized version and make, $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of evil.
Yeah,
Mhm.
of course
I don't
it
like
is.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Omar Sy is really good in this. He's so funny.
He's effortless.
Yeah.
That's what makes that performance perfect. Is that it seems like he really inhabits that character. I keep using that word, but like he just plays it like a real guy, like a normal guy.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell he doesn't want this job. You can tell he's hesitant, but then you can also tell like they're almost instant friendship. Like as soon as they start talking, they both love each other.
Yeah.
and it's off and running. And then right after that, once he gets hired, he's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just so natural and just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Black Panther. It feels like we've talked about Black Panther more than any movie in this entire podcast because it was in the last bracket we did with the comic books. I'm trying to figure out what else can we say about Black Panther at this point that hasn't been said.
It's excellent. Has some flaws.
Yes.
Culturally, very, 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 very relevant.
Very, very relevant. I still don't like much of nearly any of that action ending. Just a couple of things here and there that I like. But it's just like every other comic book movie to me.
It's almost like what they did to fucking. It's not as bad as what they did to Ant-Man. I'm talking about Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got this perfectly good movie about a very, very cool society, about a very engaging king and a very engaging villain, and then they were like, let's put some CGI rhinoceroses in there.
Yeah.
I'm more offended by. I mean, the rhinoceroses are stupid, but I'm more offended by that super dark battle inside the mountain.
the rubber Neo thing. Yeah,
where you can't tell me that they didn't sit in a meeting and go, let's set this inside the mountain so it'll be darker and we won't have to be as crisp on our everything.
Yeah.
That moment almost kills the momentum of the movie for me because they do look rubbery. It's hard to tell what's going on. But then when we get back outside, we got those rhinos. So
yeah, you can see them in full
got that
display.
going for us.
Yeah.
But everything leading up to that, I really, really love.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Busan thing. I think that's great. I like all these performances in here are top notch. I love the Letitia Wright character. I love the fact that they have better technology than anybody outside of their world has.
I know, and I hate the fact that this was such a huge milestone for Marvel, and they've marginalized almost this entire cast since then at the expense of Endgame and Infinity War. And
it seems like you
play
would,
up this character.
Seems like you would make a movie like this that was number one domestically, by the way, over the fucking Infinity War.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Infinity War took off more worldwide, but you would think that after something like that would just make you want to make even more of these. But yeah, I don't know, or include them more in, especially Infinity War and Endgame.
Well, because they just dusted them. I mean, in Infinity War, like Black Panther gets dusted.
Shuri gets dusted, right?
Shuri, I think most of them do.
Yeah.
I think.
It's just the Dana Denai Garai that
The gal from Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, she's left.
Yes. But, I mean, everybody was anticipating that whole Shuri and Tony, teaming up or something like that.
Yep.
And you get this kind of small moment between Shuri and Banner, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
One line, basically.
But it's basically Banner being like, oh, we didn't think about that or something like that. Then cut to more like diggy things and stuff like that.
It could have been a next level version of Avengers when we first got to see Tony and Banner be science bros together.
Yes.
It could have been that with a different dynamic, but we didn't get that at all.
Yeah.
No, we dusted her.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I guess when Endgame is already packed to the gills with all sorts of people and everything.
We're essentially saying, please give us more characters at the end of Endgame.
I mean, it's kind of a, So between these two, which ones are we going to, I'll go first on this one. Even though this is almost like picking blindfolded between. I mean, these two movies to me are like
they
are neck and neck. Even though, yes, I probably have more. I've been steeped more into Black Panther than I have. I've only seen The Intouchables once, but I did see it recently. But I'm gonna go Black Panther here.
I'm surprised by that.
I'm gonna go Intouchables. The Intouchables may be an experiential pick for me, but I don't think you get a movie like that very often. I mean, as seen by the ham-handed. I guess I'm just going by the reviews. I haven't seen the movie, but the attempt at the remake, you can't recreate that magic. Anyway, tie vote. What you got?
Intouchables.
Woo!
And I think Chris is right. They're pretty even in terms of like I could have flipped a coin, but that one has my heart.
All right, so The Intouchables moves on, and that's one of those. That's one of those decisions that if you asked me last week, I'd probably go The Intouchables. But it's one of those things where like the in Jurassic Park where Jeff Goldblum is dropping the water on Laura Dern's arm.
Oh yeah, like, tiny imperfection. Tiny.
Which one? Now, which way is it going to go? Well, let's say it's going to be the same this time. Okay, you think it's the same? All right. See, it went the other way. Why is that? Tiny imperfections.
Microscopic.
Let's see. Okay, so then. It will face off against the winner of either the 3rd seed, the Raid 2, Barandal, or the 14 seed, Spider-Man Homecoming. All right. All right.
Yeah. This is like the pieces of Jeremy's heart are like breaking off right now.
Yeah.
So, the Raid 2 is still one of the best action movies I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how they can't really do that here. You have to have somebody like Keanu Reeves, right, who doesn't give a shit about doing the stunts and doing the work, and you have to have a Keanu Reeves to do that.
Yeah, and you also have like American studios are much more worried about lawsuits and insurance. Not to say that studios around the world aren't ever worried about that stuff, but there may be a reason why we haven't seen Iko Uwais in a great big action film, American made, where he's used properly, because the studios may not want to let him do all the shit he got to do himself. And look at that kitchen fight at the end of the Raid 2. Don't talk to me about stuntmen. Yeah. Those two fuckers, they're doing all of that shit.
Yeah.
Yep. I was talking with somebody the other day. We were sharing around this video of that highway chase where I saw this movie with Josh Childs in the theater, and they're doing this car chase, and the camera pops out of one car and then goes down the road and turns and looks in the next car, then goes in the driver window, into the back seat, out that back window, and turns and goes down the road even further. And the way they shot that, when I saw it in the theater, I literally said, how the fuck did they do that? And then when you watch it, there's the driver's seat, it's actually flipped driving because we're in a different country. So it's a passenger seat, but it's on what Americans would call the driver's side. It's a person in a seat costume. And the camera zips down on this like skateboard thing on the road and hands the camera to the guy dressed as a seat, who then lays back and hands it out the window to a guy who's on another skateboard thing outside being dragged alongside the car. He holds it steady, and then that thing starts going down the road.
Good God.
Like, when you see it, it clicks. But when you watch it in the movie, like, that's impossible. Like, that's not even possible.
That's a YouTube video?
Oh, yeah, I'll find it for you. We'll put it in the description. But they hand that camera off twice in that scene. And it's
dressed
seamless.
like a seat.
He's dressed like a seat. You can see it if you know to look for it. You can see it. But he's got there was a guy who was doing prank videos on YouTube where he would go around to a drive-through at a fast food restaurant, but he was dressed as a seat, so it looked like there was no driver in the car. It's like that. Only it was a camera person.
Yeah.
As a technical achievement, that's why I hear a lot of people who like the first Raid better than the second one. And I think if what you care most about is tight-quartered, hand-to-hand combat, I totally get that. Because it's just a straightforward, we're going up this building, we're going to beat a bunch of ass. But the second one gives you a little more story and a lot more camera work that's impressive. Like, even before that kitchen fight, he has to get through Hammer Girl and Baseball Boy in that red shining hallway where you never once see a camera reflection. And I don't know how you do that. Yeah. I guess you might have had to go back in CG afterwards, but to even shoot it in a mirrored hallway is kind of a ballsy move.
Yeah.
I could talk about this movie for forever.
Yeah, and then they have the prison riot thing. That's also done well.
In the mud.
Yeah, like most of the time, if that movie's shot in America, then you're going to have nothing but cutting everywhere and bad just fighting and everything. But this,
people falling down.
He makes sure to like have that ground level view of the combatants going through that mud and everything. I know that's the reason. I mean, movies made overseas don't have to worry about the insurance thing.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan famously couldn't come over to America and do the same things that he did in his movies in Hong Kong. He had to be an American actor at that point, where you have stunt people and everything, and maybe they let him do a couple of things, but the reason why the Jackie Chan didn't translate as well, even though he had a couple of big hits, like, Rush Hour and Shanghai Noon and stuff like that. But like, most of the movies that he did, we didn't connect to very well because he wasn't doing the stuff.
Yep.
And this is the Raid 2 is all about everybody doing their own thing.
Yeah. I mean, it had my attention already with that opening chase and stuff like that, because it picks up right after the first movie leaves off. But that prison fight is where like I got out of my chair. I didn't see it in the theater, but I was like, holy shit, because like it's got this great tension build up of like everybody kind of moving in unison, and they're all sitting out while it's getting all muddy and everything. And then once the big guy goes after Rama, and like you see traditional fighting, and then he breaks the fuck out of his leg. Just crack! And it's like that away, and he's like, and he starts choking him out. That's where it like starts just going off, and people are stabbing each other a million times and shit like that. God.
Yeah,
fucking
man.
awesome.
It's visceral.
Oh,
We're
God.
going to have to watch that shit after the podcast.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
man.
God. I was jerking off to it earlier.
It's visceral. Jerking off to it. I think that's what it is. It's like,
I know. It was like, you guys come in for the podcast one day, I'm watching The Raid, and I've got a blanket over me.
there's got to be people that get off of that. There's people that get
Probably.
off on everything.
Probably.
Oh, my God. I mean, by the time, it's amazing the pacing of this movie, because that's what, the first third of the movie is the prison fight?
That's
maybe about halfway through.
First quarter, I think.
And then you have like all the story stuff and everything interspersed with a bunch of the fights and the one at the nightclub with the long-haired guy.
Yeah.
And then they have to go to where they went to in the kitchen fight to make that stand out at that point.
Yeah.
And goddamn, that's like a 9-minute fight straight up.
Way longer than you think it is.
And it ends like 3 times.
It does. And what I love about it is they both have a cocky respect for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they both have these expressions. Every time they separate and then square off again, whether they got their claw knives out or not, like, there's this expression they both have that says, I'm going to win this fight, but I appreciate you lasting this long. I feel like it really could have gone either way. They didn't make him a Superman where, he just comes in and beats this guy's ass and fight. Even everybody he fights in the whole movie, does damage to him.
Yeah.
But he could easily have lost that last fight. God, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I want a third, but instead he went and made some kind of weird island Save My Sister horror movie.
What was it? Talking about Gareth Evans?
Yeah, it was a Netflix film.
Did you see it?
Not Apostle. I saw the first 20 minutes, and I'm guessing it's what Midsummer is like, and I turned it off.
Oh.
Apostle.
Is it The Apostle?
I see a movie called Apostle.
Apostle. Okay, that's it.
Huh.
It's about a guy whose sister got caught up in some island weird
Ooh, Lucy Boynton.
cult, and he goes to try and save. It's famous Dan Stevens, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched the first 20 minutes and just realized it wasn't for me. It's going to be more icky, fingernail pulling type stuff and not action.
That's a departure.
It is, but I applaud him doing that.
Yeah, sure.
Now I'll go back and make a third Raid movie.
The Raid 2 goes up against Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming was basically, I mean, before we knew what it was yet another reboot of this franchise. It was just too soon after Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I think I don't know how many people were on board with Andrew Garfield. I was personally.
Yeah.
But I guess after part 2, everybody just sort of like got tired of it or something. And
He's not the problem with part 2.
He's not the problem with either of those
No,
movies.
I don't think he is either, but yeah, the people weren't responding to those Amazing Spider-Man Andrew Garfield versions. So you go and get Tom Holland on this one, and obviously he's the perfect Spider-Man. I mean, he's better than anybody that's ever done it.
I agree. Best we've had so far.
Yeah. The youthful exuberance that he gives to that role is something that Tobey Maguire couldn't do, because I think he was
30 something.
He was
28.
He was not quite 30, but he was like upper 20s when he first did it.
But he didn't look like no damn high schooler.
No, he didn't. And Andrew Garfield obviously didn't either. So to have somebody who looks like they're actually in high school is a really like big thing. And then you put in a great sidekick with Ned in this and everything. The movie was immediately just super fun, and Michael Keaton's a great villain to throw into this. I thought it was kind of cool that they made it where he was the cleanup crew for the Avengers shit.
Yeah.
I don't understand that at all. Like they threw like the government, obviously the government's going to get their own people on that afterwards. So it's to the fact that they even got in on this job is insane. But it does offer a nice little connection to the larger world and everything.
The weird rumors I'm reading the last few days are that Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness may go full bonkers apeshit multiverse on us. Like, I'm hearing rumors, reading rumors, Tobey Maguire may show up from an alternate universe, a la Into the Spider-Verse, which would be, I'd be more open to that than goddamn J.K. Simmons being at the end of Far From Home.
Yep.
But you call the movie Multiverse of Madness. I think we need to expect a little bit of Into the Spider-Verse shenanigans going on in this movie.
And Raimi, I mean, if it's not going to be Derrickson, Raimi is a good choice to.
Raimi's a great choice to do a comic horror type, something that leans a little more into horror, but not in a way that makes you scared or not in a gory way.
I wonder now that people know that the Michael Cera character in Molly's Game was Tobey Maguire, if he's going to work much more anymore. The other day, Prisoners was on. And there's that moment at the end where he's just going ballistic on the kitchen. Basically, he's ripping the freezer door off, and he's
which movie?
Not Prisoners, Brothers.
Oh, okay, good. You honest with me there for a second.
The movie Brothers is when at the end of Brothers, where he is in the kitchen and he's just ripping, he's ripping the kitchen up and everything. And I was like, God damn, I don't think I've seen Tobey Maguire this intense ever. And it's an emotional, intense ending to that movie. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go and look up Tobey Maguire because I haven't seen him in a while. Has he been doing like these straight-to-video things or whatever? No, he's just not doing much.
He's certainly got enough money. If he doesn't ever want to work again, he doesn't have to. But he and DiCaprio were both part of a self-proclaimed pussy posse at one point. So to tell me that the Michael Cera character in Molly's Game is him, not really that big of a stretch for me. I can see that. I can see that he would be the kind of guy that would be like that.
Yeah, but I think people can sort of accept a pussy posse as far as you're just young guys.
Yeah. No, I guess what I was saying was that we shouldn't be necessarily surprised to find out 20 years later that maybe he wasn't such a good guy.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Although, Leo apparently seems like a good guy, but all he ever seems to do is make movies and sit on a yacht. So how do I know?
And date younger babes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I said it like that.
Babes. Babes.
I was trying to say something judicious.
Yeah,
and babes is what came
okay, so Spider-Man Homecoming, which is where we were, may be one of the most flawed movies I love with my whole damn heart. Like, I love The Martian. I'm famous for it. I've seen it more than 50 times. But I could defend The Martian on its quality.
And you're going to today.
Oh, great. Awesome. Glad I came ready. But I'm not sure I can defend Homecoming on its overall quality. Like, I always find myself defending Homecoming on its charm and its humor and its acting, which is great. But squeamish airplane.
That's the very end, though, man.
Scene.
Like you were talking about the monument scene earlier. Yes, it is damsel in distress, right? But still, it's about like a nerdy kid on a quiz bowl team going to DC. It's so very high schoolish, and that whole scene of him getting up there to the top of the monument is so anxiety-inducing because he's nervous about it. He doesn't know what his abilities are. He's got the suit talking to him and all that stuff. And you still don't know how it's going to turn out because he releases and catches it like multiple times.
Yeah.
I think everything up until that very end is completely defendable.
Well, it's weird. We're switching roles here, and I'm now bashing the movie. Like, the stuff has always bothered me. Like, Iron Man's involvement in this movie has always bothered me because Spider-Man didn't have that. That's kind of the whole point of Spider-Man, is that he lost his Uncle Ben. Now we've got a surrogate immediately with all these expensive tech toys who can help him and who can come save the day at the ferry, and it just felt like an Iron Man movie as much as it did a Spider-Man movie.
I think that's your baggage. I think that's your Spider-Man baggage. I don't have that baggage.
Well, I also don't like a high-tech suit that talks to him and can dispatch a part of it to go be a drone.
But his interaction with that, meaning that he doesn't know how to use it necessarily.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm saying is I would have done it different.
Mm-hmm.
I love the movie.
Yeah, no.
I'm saying, go watch this movie. It's fucking awesome. But I prefer a Spider-Man that doesn't have Tony Stark's help.
Yeah.
I prefer a Spider-Man that makes his own suit. I prefer a Spider-Man that is smart on his own and then enhanced with the fucking spider bite, and he doesn't need a smart tech sugar daddy fuck.
Boo-boo kitty fuck.
He doesn't have it for half of the movie. Like the latter half of the movie.
What?
He doesn't have the suit, the
Not
high-tech
the
suit.
latter half.
Yeah.
The last 20 minutes.
All right.
It's Michael Keaton's character does more with that technology than the Chitauri do in Avengers.
I agree with that.
Yep.
What the fuck,
Yeah.
man? What the fuck?
And it's really arguably not even him. It's that, Tinker guy who's being the one that makes that shit. But yeah, I mean,
all right. I'm gonna go Raid 2 here.
I'm gonna go Raid 2 here.
Take my voice out of it. I'm gonna go Raid 2 too. I tell you, the last thing about Raid 2 is that, did you ever watch the Wu Assassins show with Iko Uwais? Did you ever watch that?
Nope.
It was just such a depressing use of this wonderful actor. He's objectively terrible in this show, in this series, when it comes to acting. But I really think it's all because it's in English, and he's trying to act in English. You go back to Raid 2, he's a really good actor.
Yeah, he is.
Like, he's acting a lot through his eyes, through his fights. It's disappointing. I hope he gets used, if he does do American movies or American shows, I hope he gets used better than what we've seen so far, because he's such a good actor.
Yeah, Force Awakens really gave him the finger.
I watched that recently, and I was like,
God,
damn, they dispatched him.
It was on last night. That's why I tweeted last night about, hey, remember when they cast those two guys from the Raid, gave them 2 lines of dialogue, and then had some kind of octopus blowfish monster?
Yeah.
What a waste. Imagine that guy with a fucking lightsaber.
Oh, my God.
Darth Maul can suck my taint. Like, this guy would rule all.
You would have a little issue with the horns.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think it through practically.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about Mubi once again. Yeah, we have Tigger in here today.
Oh, bother.
Wow. I guess so.
You know what? Here's the cool thing about Mubi as well. Not only are there, your typical movies that you've never heard of before that are great, they're diamonds in the rough and everything, but there's also some short films that come on there. And that's something that you don't get a chance to see very often either. A lot of times you have to go out and seek those. Sometimes you can find them elsewhere, but like this one right now, currently on Mubi, there's one called The Staggering Girl on there.
Yeah.
Which was directed by Luca Guadagnino. who did
Oh, man.
Call Me by Your Name.
I had been practicing that name this whole morning, and you stole it from me.
You can still say it.
Guadagnino.
Now I can't say it. Now I'm going to fuck it up.
Yeah. But the guy who directed Call Me by Your Name and Suspiria and I Am Love and all that. This short stars Julianne Moore, and it has Mia Goth in it, and it has Kyle MacLachlan, sudden Kyle MacLachlan in it.
Sudden. It's the best kind.
Yeah, exactly. Very interesting film. He's a hard nut to crack, that Guadagnino guy.
He is. Have you seen I Am Love?
I have.
What'd you think of it?
I haven't seen it in forever, but I remember going, man, this movie is so lushly beautiful, and Tilda Swinton's awesome, and I don't know what happened.
That happens a lot. Besides Call Me by Your Name, where you know definitely what
that's
happened.
his most straightforward movie.
Yeah. I mean, everything else, including this, Suspiria is like that. There's just, it's always gorgeously shot, especially when it's something like Italy, where it's shot. In this movie, it's split between New York and Italy. This is, I think, for him, even further out there than Suspiria in a different way. Obviously.
Yeah.
This is very, very ethereal and dreamlike, and if you got to know that going in, I think. Like if you have that, if it's like Roma, if you're expecting something to happen, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
If you immerse yourself in it, though, it's a beautiful experience. Especially, not only is it Guadagnino, and Julianne Moore, who's excellent in this, but it's also got a score by Ryuichi Sakamoto, who's a great composer, and it's this weird kind of unsettling score, and then it resolves, and it's nice, and like it's like a deep breath, basically. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, and I guess basic bare bones. It's only 37 minutes, but Julianne Moore is visiting her mother. And there is I guess they've decided that she needs to take her mom back to New York with her so that she can take care of her. Or otherwise, they're going to have to put her in a home, I guess, because she's blind. And she's also an artist who apparently, this is one of the more interesting parts of the movie, was Kyle MacLachlan is saying that, like, she asked me to describe this like bird for her, and she painted it the best she could, but the ones that look closest to the swan don't sell as well as the ones that don't look like the swan at all.
Yeah,
and
it kind of goes into this critique of modern art.
Yeah,
that you see in documentaries about modern art and like jacking up prices and stuff like that. He's saying the ones that have the highest dollar signs are the least like what I'm describing.
Right.
I just want her to do the thing that I'm describing. You know?
Yeah. But that's a really interesting movie. There's also a 3-minute short film on there called Throat Singing in Kangaroosuk. I think that's how you spell that. I mean, pronounce that. I'm not sure. It's
I thought it was Karkerstark.
Oh, it could be. It could be. It's
That's next door.
It's a foreign film from Canada. But it's these two women who are in the middle of this like barren, like ice world of some sort. It's not Iceland, but it's
Hoth.
Yeah, it's Hoth. It's Hoth. Yeah, totally. You can see wreckage of the AT-ATs back there. But there's this way of singing that they have. That you were talking about, something that some metal bands have tried to do.
Yeah.
But they sing, and then it's like a whole bunch of beautiful imagery as they do this unusual type of performance and everything. Only 3 minutes long.
I have actual Tuvan throat singing records in my house.
Oh, really?
My wife went through a thing where she was like, it's super interested in it. It's not a melodic.
No, it's super calming though.
It is. And I know a lot of people use it like for meditation and stuff like that. But it's a real thing. Like you can buy this music and people have trained their throats. It's like Kenny G's circular breathing, where he's like one of the only people. These people are the only people that can do this, but they train themselves to be able to make multiple notes with one voice by using their throats. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah. That movie, or that short, The Staggering Girl, movie helped produce it.
Yeah,
too.
it's a movie release.
So yeah, it's an actual like exclusive thing to movies. So this is the only place that you're going to see this, and it's not like, oh well, it's a pretty good director and it's a pretty good cast and everything. You can watch it on movie. No, this is like top tier everything from Luca Guadagnino. to Julianne Moore, to the rest of the cast. Mia Goth is actually really, really good in this. It's a collaboration with the director of Valentino. Dresses too, so there's a lot of pretty dresses in
Pretty dresses.
I don't know why I pointed
Right up my alley. I love pretty dresses.
But yeah, I mean it's worth getting Mubi this month just to watch that.
Yeah.
It's the only place that you're going to watch it. So go to Mubi.com/Cinemasins, get 30 days free. 30 days. That's a month.
I was going to say it's especially worth getting Mubi any month if you use that URL because you get that first month for free. So it's worth free.
That's true. No, this is a really great deal. We love Mubi. You've heard us talk about it before. We are in love with this service. Curated streaming service for movies that you maybe wouldn't go out of your way to see, but they know what they're doing. They'll put them in front of your eyeballs. You consume them with your eyeballs. It transmits to your brain and then to your loins, and everything is good. Mubi.com/Cinemasins. 30 days free.
Gardino.
Yes. The Raid 2 will now go up against the Intouchables. On to the 7 seed Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol versus the 10 seed Moonrise Kingdom.
Ooh, wow.
I just realized the ridiculousness of this one.
Yeah. It's
I watched a did you ever see the SNL parody of Wes Anderson doing a Strangers type of horror movie?
I think so.
It's like the coterie of Midnight Intruders or something like that. And it's basically all of the Wes Anderson. It's narrated by Alec Baldwin himself in the episode, and it's Ed Norton playing Owen Wilson.
Yeah,
It's like, wow, there's some strangers outside. Wow. What do you think this is?
Did you see the trailer for the new Wes Anderson?
Yes, I did.
Wow, it's baffling to me.
It seems like a very Wes Anderson film.
It does. Well,
But he's definitely obviously got his style, but this is the movie that has as much heart in it as anything since Rushmore.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's why I usually don't dislike Wes Anderson, and it's clear that he's an artist. But I'm rarely touched by his movies. I've touched your children, and I'm pretty sure they touched you. But yeah, Rushmore and this one have the most heart. Royal Tannenbaums is like a lot of people's favorite, and that one has like negative heart.
Oh, you're wrong, but this is not the space to discuss that.
So yeah, Moonrise Kingdom is I mean, this might be one of his biggest hits, actually. He doesn't make movies that make a lot of money necessarily. But I remember this being at the Belcourt, and it was like selling out every weekend and stuff like that.
45 million gross, 45 million domestic, 22 international, so 68 million.
Yeah, I don't think Rushmore did all that great, and I don't think Royal Tannenbaums did.
Life
Aquatic for sure didn't.
Darjeeling didn't for sure.
No,
maybe Grand Budapest because it got so many
Grand
awards.
Budapest may have. But this is it's a sweet like pre-adolescent romance thing. The line that always comes back to me in this movie is after the dog gets shot. And the kid goes over to the dog, and the girl's like, "So was he a good dog?" And he's like, "Who's to say?" But he didn't deserve to be killed.
Every interaction between this boy and this girl in this movie when they're all on the run is priceless.
Yeah,
because they're acting so adult, but they're 12. It's charming as hell. In fact, I hate when it cuts away from them back to Ed Norton or anybody else because it's so unique. To see how these two people are just casually, well, now let's kiss now. Okay.
Yeah, they're very adult, and it's easy to get caught up in like, should we be watching this? Like they're down to their underwear and stuff like that. But there's enough technical distance there where you can still feel warmth for them. And stories like this need to be told. I grew up watching stories like this of pre-adolescence and things like that, like, love stories and My Girl and Bridge to Terabithia and stuff like that. I think it's just delightful to see.
Yeah.
By the way, box office, number one Wes Anderson box office, Domestic is Grand Budapest Hotel with 59. Total is $163 million for Grand Budapest Hotel. Second is Royal Tenenbaums, 52 domestic, 71 overall, and then third is Moonrise Kingdom.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, because even like Fantastic Mr. Fox didn't do anything even. But
God, it
I
sure
think
didn't.
I think he makes these movies that are just, they're like $3 million, and
Well, and all these people keep coming to work for him. Owen Wilson and Ed Norton are not charging him full price.
no, they're working that scale.
Yeah.
And Bill Murray may be doing it for like tacos.
Yeah, seriously.
Mhm.
Seriously.
Yeah. But Moonrise Kingdom's really good. It's going up against Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. We chose this one. I know that I think a lot of people think Fallout is the best one.
I think that's a recency bias.
It might be, although Fallout probably, it's hard to say that it has better stunts.
I did see a blog article the other day on one of the Gawker sites. The title was Mission Impossible Fallout is goddamn perfect. And there was like a whole article basically explaining why this movie is perfection.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, you're splitting hairs on any of the most recent three, I think. I would put them Ghost Protocol, Fallout, Rogue Nation, but they're all A's or A pluses. So, we're not like dogging on any of them.
No.
This is the first one. I know he did some crazy stunts in 2. Well, he did some crazy stunts in 1, 2, and 3. We were watching a behind the scenes on 2 where he does that knife thing where it gets an inch away from his eyeball.
Yeah.
They actually had that on a rope. That's a practical effect. They had that on a rope.
So it couldn't
where
go
it
any
stopped
further?
right there, like a half an inch from his eye.
I think that's stupid.
I think that's incredibly stupid.
I think
but that's a
stupid.
practical
Well,
thing.
he did some rock climbing in that movie too, right?
Yeah.
Because it
That was
opens
at the
with,
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, before the Limp Bizkit song. And then, but 4 was really where he went bonkers, right? Because he didn't really do anything in 3 that was insane to the level of Ghost
No, I think
Protocol.
he had decided by the time Ghost Protocol came out, he was going to be a true, like, he may have not used stuntmen very much in the past, for all I know.
Yeah.
But this is the first time where I felt like he must have done, like, did he do all of them, or did he do maybe
Well, he was out on the fucking side of the Burj Khalifa, hanging out the top of that building.
He's definitely on the building. I'm just wondering if there's maybe a couple of maybe flips or something like that where he still uses a stuntman here and there, but stuff like that, he's like, I'm going to be who cares if I die?
Yeah.
That Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, that entire sequence from the moment that they are trying to fool the buyers in the one level, and then they have they have 2 like competing levels going on. To the point that he's on the Burj Khalifa, to the sandstorm coming, and all that is the craziest shit. Like until Mad Max Fury Road comes out.
Yeah.
That, I mean, and of course, Mad Max Fury Road also has a sandstorm. But like that, it never lets up. It's once it starts that. Once it gets to the sandstorm and he chases dude through all the highway and everything, and it finally ends. That's another like moment.
Absolutely, because everything goes wrong in the Burj Khalifa. Everything, like they don't get to hack the way they wanted to. He's got to climb up the wall and get to the machine so he can physically touch it. But then they're on different floors, and then the shit doesn't. The face mask thing breaks, and so they have to just impersonate without masks.
Yeah,
that's the beginning of the. I guess we'll have to assume that they've never met. He really flies by the seat of his pants on that.
He's climbing that Burj Khalifa thing. One of the gloves doesn't work, and it flies off. And he's got to use the one, and it's like God. They just keep like adding more and more.
And then he turns around and sees the sandstorm coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Was this an IMAX? Was that sequence in IMAX?
Yeah.
Did you guys see it anyway?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah. Remember, I was up. I had all those pot cookies. And Chris and I went and saw the first opening scene. One of the trailers was the opening scene of Dark Knight Rises, and then this thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
That was my first experience with what IMAX could truly do, other than stunt movies at Disney or whatever.
Yeah, I think they released this in IMAX first, and it had like a couple of weeks or something, and then it opened wide.
Oh, seriously?
Something like that.
Wow.
It was something like you could only see it in IMAX at first.
Wow.
I could be completely wrong.
No, the film was released in IMAX and other large format theaters in the U.S. in December 16th. General release December 21st.
All right,
so
almost a
it's
week.
5. Okay. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this movie is so good. So
it holds up too. Whatever happened to Paula Patton's character though?
She beats the hell out of that French chick.
Yeah, who's like is that
it's
Leah
Leah
Seydoux?
Seydoux.
Oh, you mean why isn't she in the movies anymore?
Yeah, what happened to her?
They hired
Was
Rebecca
she
Hall.
in Ferguson. Hall?
Ferguson. They hired Rebecca Hall Ferguson.
Yes, Rebecca Ferguson.
it's a hyphenated last name.
Yeah, I actually don't remember what happened there.
Well, she's
Renner
alive
comes
at the
back.
end of this one.
Yeah, yeah.
And she just isn't in the next one.
Yeah.
So I don't even think they explain it.
I guess not. I mean, he's had a different crew up until 3. He has Jonathan Rhys-Meyers in 3, right?
No.
Who's the kid with the hair?
Oh,
in 3.
Ben Wenshaw?
I haven't seen 3 in forever, dude.
Let me look this shit
Everybody
up.
says 3 is awesome, and in my opinion, 3 is just not bad after 2.
Yeah.
It's an episode of Alias.
You know what it is? I've never seen Alias.
That's
And
what
so,
it is.
So I think I'm really, really inflating it because to me, I'd never seen stuff like that. J.J. Abrams do stuff like that
Especially when you
before.
get Kerry Russell in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's Alias, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. But
Yeah.
then it was Brad Bird that took it to a whole nother level,
Mm-hmm.
and now Macquarie has upped it even more.
Yeah.
And I don't think Macquarie's ever going to let go of it.
Yeah, he's doing the next 2, right?
They signed for the next 2. He's done the last 2. What was awesome, there was a Twitter thread where somebody was asking him about the first one, Mission Impossible, and he was talking about De Palma's camera work in the aquarium scene and how he puts the camera on the ground so that you could get, this sense of foreboding so that when the aquarium breaks and comes out, I'm not a director. I don't make movies, and this is why. Because I don't have that knowledge. I don't have that eye. I'm not that smart. I like movies. I don't like movies. But I'm not trying to say I know what it's all about.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I can't find whoever you're talking about. I just know that you have Simon Pegg, you have Ving Rhames, and you have Rebecca Ferguson.
But up until my point was for the first 3, it was an interchangeable crew. Besides Luther,
Yeah.
So
even Luther was gone for a while.
Yeah, he was gone for...
Oh, he was gone for 2, I
2,
guess.
yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Mm-hmm. And then does he come back? He comes back briefly in the third one.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. He's in 3 at least a little bit because I saw that fairly recently, and he's in there.
Yeah. Oh, fuck it. Who cares?
It is Jonathan Rhys-Meyers in 2.
Wow. Sorry we stepped on
Well,
you there.
I thought you were talking about the second one of this new trilogy, not part.
Oh, okay.
Not part 2.
Okay.
MI2. So I wasn't even thinking of
And what
MI2.
what I just said is wrong. It's Jonathan Rhys-Meyers as his crew in 3.
Okay.
He is the crew, part of the crew.
That's the one Aaron Paul's in.
This has been Trying to Figure Out Mission Impossible.
Brought to you by Mission Impossible
Yes.
and Paramount Studios.
Right. So yeah. Anyway, this goes up against Moonrise Kingdom. What do we want to do here?
Fuck Moonrise Kingdom.
Right.
Ghost Protocol.
I love Moonrise Kingdom. I'm glad it's in the bracket, but it ain't anywhere near the level of Ghost Protocol.
No, man. No.
Yeah, I will be picking Ghost Protocol as well. It will go up against the winner of this 2 seed, The Martian,
Ooh.
or the 15 seed, Booksmart.
Fuck you.
All right.
Which bracket are we in? Did I watch Lady Bird for no reason?
No, it's
All
coming.
right, good. Booksmart versus The Martian. Booksmart versus The Martian.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are near and dear to you.
How? I guess a lot of what I want to say about Booksmart, I want to save for when we talk about Lady Bird. Because I was joking last night on Slack that they're the same movie. And they're not. But when I finally did see Lady Bird, it felt more like Booksmart than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a lot more powerful and impactful.
Oh, yeah.
And it's much more of a comedy than I was expecting. And so it made me walk away going, well, why did it get nominated for Best Picture, but Booksmart didn't even get a whiff?
Yeah.
Anyway, Booksmart is fucking hilarious.
It is.
2 great lead actresses, written and directed by Olivia Wilde. Hilarious side characters. If you like Superbad, just fucking watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hate Superbad, what's wrong with you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought Booksmart was going to be a much bigger hit previous to its release, because every time I was in a theater that had that trailer, I heard people laughing, and I was like, "Oh, well, should be a surprise hit." And it comes out, and nobody fucking watches it.
I think 15 people saw it.
Yeah,
it's crazy. We saw this in the theater. I saw this in the theater.
I saw it in the theater. Yeah.
And I had the same feeling as you. Like, this is going to be like one of those sneaky, like, big hits.
Yeah, this was one where I think you had seen the movie in the theater, and I had just randomly gone to watch it. I didn't know that you had seen it, and I randomly went to watch it over, and then I saw you tweet about it. I think. Yeah, Booksmart is just a fun movie, man. It's just super fun. It's amazing that so many people have still yet to really have come around on it.
What I called it at the time was the most casually diverse movie I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
because think about it, you've got, and now again, it wasn't a huge hit or anything like that, but it's critically beloved. You've got 2 female lead characters, neither traditionally supermodel hot. One is a lesbian. You've got a couple of very homosexual characters as like the secondary characters. You've got like a huge array of races and genders, and you've got like a weirdish teacher-student relationship, but she checks it out and she says it's cool. Yeah. And like just everything is presented just as normally as like super bad, raunchy boys comedy, boys being boys and getting drunk and trying to get laid, except everything is different about it. It's like you put it in a boggle thing and like, shook it up.
That was a very heavy shake.
Yeah.
You just did a really big shake. I think it's pretty clear that she was trying to make the cast and the story as diverse as possible. Did you see a headline yesterday and the day before? Her next movie is going to be a biopic of Carrie Scruggs, the Olympic gymnast who had a bum knee who stuck the landing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, really?
She's going to do a biopic about her. She's super stoked about it, and I think she's one to watch. I think that was a huge like debut. I think as a director,
yeah.
So many other actors turned directors have debuts that are more like albino alligator.
Yeah, yeah.
Who was that?
Kevin Spacey.
Spacey.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, that's the one that came
reference.
out. Sorry.
Yeah, you probably can't even find that on DVD anymore.
Did you ever see it?
I did.
Yeah, I saw it.
It had a lot of great actors in it.
Did you?
Saw it in theaters.
Wow.
It was not good.
But yeah. I can't. I also like the fact too that they have the one character who has like had parties and has fucked everybody and everything, and still has like awesome SAT scores and everything. And that's sort of what sets them on this quest, right? Because they're like, we haven't done any of that. We've been focused on like getting into a good college this whole time. And meanwhile, you have people who are actually having fun out there.
What a great fucking scene in the bathroom where she comes out and she's pulling rank on them, and they're like, "Well, I'm actually going to what is it, Brown?"
I don't remember, but I always think about
Princeton.
I always think about the Aunt Becky, Lori Loughlin stuff whenever I watch that scene, because the rich kids can get into a good school in ways other than grades, and kids without money and means have to have the grades to get there. So in a way, I relate to those characters because I felt like I had to get good grades if I was going to be a success in life. I certainly got better grades than some kids in my class who went to Harvard or are fancy pants lawyers now. It's just really good. Please watch it.
It goes up against The Martian, Ridley Scott's. This is in the middle of a whole bunch of like well-made space movies. It might be, is it right in the middle? You have Gravity and then Interstellar. I think came after. It was the sort of the third in the line of those movies.
But an ironic timing with Interstellar because Matt Damon is in both.
Yep.
Shh, spoiler.
Yeah.
That spoiler was kept for a long time for that time period.
Yeah,
I
well,
didn't know it until I watched it long after it came out.
yeah, and when you see him, you're like, it's like that. If you are unspoiled about Kevin Spacey in Seven, when you get to that scene, you're like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah, I mean, The Martian is endlessly entertaining. Damon is basically just talking to himself the whole time. It's kind of narration, but it's really him talking to himself, trying to solve the problem. And I think that's what makes The Martian probably, I don't know, it's not, I mean, both Interstellar and Gravity both have their own awesomeness to them and everything. But there's nothing more exhilarating to me than someone actually thinking out the problem. And I know that a lot of times that doesn't seem exciting to people. People just want somebody to go, all right, I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this. They do that towards the end of the movie, by the way. But just somebody who's actually sitting there going, okay, I need to do this, I need to consider this. And then, like, actually making some mistakes, too. Any of these mistakes could kill him.
That's the key. And in the book, he makes even more mistakes. But I think I did a heart of the movie, or planned to, for this movie when I think I planned to, but I didn't do it. When he finally sets the hydrogen on fire after talking about the Jet Propulsion Lab and how they discovered jet fuel and yada, yada. And he's like, fortunately, I have hydrogen and rocket fuel, blah, blah. So he combines them in the firelights and he goes, woo! And then it explodes and blows it back against the wall. That perfectly encapsulates this whole movie. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And he even comes back and says, you know, I forgot about the excess oxygen I was breathing because I'm an idiot.
Isn't that where he's like slightly singed too? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he blows up the Hab and ends up having to live in the MAV for a little bit. No, MAV? Not the MAV, the rover. Yeah. It's just, there are countless obstacles. It's almost like a whole movie of that Burj Khalifa scene in Ghost Protocol, where every time he has a little victory, there's some other setback because, as he says in the movie, space doesn't care.
Yeah.
It wants to kill you.
I mean, there's so many things in here that obviously you would never do if you weren't. I mean, this is so obvious. You would never do it if you weren't in this situation. The reason, like, there are things that you have to think outside of the rules and everything like that to survive, especially when he digs up that
nuclear reactor or whatever.
The reason why it's buried is because, yes, obviously you don't want to, put that out in the atmosphere and everything like that. But he knows that that's a precaution.
Yes.
That's not something that you're actually getting, like, actual radiation that can kill you unless a whole bunch of stuff happens to it, which is what the whole reason it's getting buried in the first place.
And he even says in the rover, as long as it doesn't break, wow, I almost just said everything will be fine.
Yeah. You know, and solving these little problems, man, just all of that is just fun. All of it is, the whole movie is just super fun. Like I said, towards the end of this movie, I feel like they're just making it up a little bit.
Which part?
The shooting up the one thing to meet the other ship.
Yeah.
And there's a point where they're like, well, we have to go this fast or we won't be able to get him. And then they end up going way faster than that.
Yeah.
And end up being able to still get him somehow. It seems like every time something happens in that final scene, someone goes, oh, I know. And they solve that problem. Whereas the whole movie to that point has been, how do I figure this out? I mean, obviously they don't have the time.
See, I always feel like it just switches perspective and it takes that problem solving out of Matt Damon's hands and puts it in Captain Lewis or whatever, Jessica Chastain, because I love the way they use atmosphere for thrust, where they blow out, you know, basically the airlock, and all of the air rushing out of the ship propels the ship forward. That's science. That would work. But you rarely see that kind of like thinking in a sci-fi movie. It's usually like, hey, hit the side thrusters for 3 seconds and we'll move out of the way. I've said this before. When she catches him and they spin around and she goes, I got him, it gives me chills every time. I've seen it more than 50, 60 times. And I have to give credit to the way Ridley like shot and edited that sequence to go back to, God, I'm so bad with names. I got to stop doing drugs. The Kate Mara and the other astronauts on the ship, then back to the NASA people holding their breath, then out to the crowds in France, then out to the New York City crowds, and then back to Matt Damon.
And they have Bucky on it.
And they have Bucky.
Fucking Bucky.
It gives me goosebumps, and it's every bit as exhilarating for me to watch as Apollo 13. It's a perfect companion. You could watch these two movies back to back. and I think they would feel like siblings.
Oh yeah, I agree.
There's a look in this movie though that pops more so than Apollo 13 is more about. It's weird to say more about the science, more about the problem, because everything goes wrong all the time.
Mm-hmm. He's in it for the money, not the science.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just because of the time it was made, there's a little bit of a duller look. Just it's looking at the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, everything like the ship, the Hermes is super sleek and shiny and stuff like that.
Their space outfits, their space uniforms are sharp, and
all the stuff at the JPL is all like cutting edge. All the stuff at NASA just has this great look, like this look that pops. The colors pop. The actors are spectacular across the board. This is definitely, if we had a bracket for the most rewatchable movie in the last decade, this would be it.
This would be up there for sure.
Yeah, we made this discussion last week too with the Nice Guys. So there are several in here that are going to have that kind of quality to it and everything. But yeah, man, we'll get to the voting in just a second. But the thing about The Martian I like the most is just the fact that problem solving. There's all sorts of different kinds of problem solving in it, and then there are things where like I like the fact that Jeff Daniels is like, we need to get this done in a certain amount of days. And if we have to cut out like testing it out,
inspections, yeah.
If we have to cut that out, that's what we're going to have to do.
He's like suggesting this because he goes, how long does it take to do the inspections? And they're like 10 days. And then Sean Bean, the crank ass Sean Bean in this movie, he's like, are you suggesting we don't do the inspections? And he basically ends up saying, does anybody else have a better idea?
Yeah.
No? Okay, thank you. Because they're in uncharted waters here. And yeah, you would drop the inspections to make up that window if you had to.
He's like, how many times is something found in these inspections? And I think it's like, 3% maybe?
One time in 20, I think they say.
Yeah, so like, that's the thing that all sorts of different problem solving, I love about that kind of problem solving is that, yes, of course, we would love to. That is a luxury in this situation.
Yeah.
That inspection, you would, of course, do that on a very controlled mission. You would inspect everything. You'd inspect it twice, probably. But in this case, where the guy's got only this amount of days, he's going to be dead if we do the inspections.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love about shit like that.
And he fucks up.
Yeah, it fucks up. And then you got Donald Glover doing his science and his math with the arcs and the beams and the go.
Yeah.
Oh, I love when his demonstration, because he hits Kristen Wiig with the ballpoint pen, the end you click, and it's light, but she's so offended. She's like, hey. Yeah, and life lessons at the end when he's talking to all the new astronaut students. It's one of my favorite sections when he talks about, and you do the math. You solve the first problem, and then you move on to the next problem. And if you solve enough problems, you get to come home. I often will tell my wife, this is life. You solve the first problem in front of you, then you solve the next one. If you solve enough problems, you get to live life.
There you go.
Otherwise, you're just stuck on that first problem forever, spinning your wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And that just adds even more to it. Is he's going to die if he doesn't do these things. So if he dies in the middle of trying to do something else, then so be it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yep.
It's the way it's going to happen. All right. Where do we want to go?
Oh, Martian. What was it even up against?
Booksmart.
Booksmart. I'm trying to see if there's a case to be made for Booksmart.
There is, but not against this movie.
Not against The Martian. The Martian is one of the most top to bottom perfect movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. I will also be picking The Martian here.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Booksmart.
The Martian will go up against Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Oh, fuck me.
Woo-hoo. All right. Our last two matchups. We have the 5-seed Spotlight versus the 12-seed Ladybird.
Oh, I forgot it was going up against Spotlight.
So these last four movies are the ones that I watched.
Really?
Rewatched. Just because they seem like really tough. They seem like really tough matchups. I probably could have done that with Spider-Man and 12 Years a Slave as well, but Spotlight was Best Picture in 2015, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it covers the Boston diocese, all the priests who were molesting kids and everything. There's a group called was it Slap? It was a group called Slap that it was a bunch of people who it was a support group for people who had been molested by priests that this guy had set up, who initially said there were 13 priests that he knew of that was doing this. And so the movie is about this small group of newspaper writers inside the Boston Globe called Spotlight. Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, Mark Ruffalo, and another guy.
Some dude you've seen in other stuff.
Yes. And apparently the Globe in the past has gotten such tips that this is happening. But what the movie sets up so well is that Boston is a tremendously huge Catholic area where not only do you have people who don't want to admit that they've been molested, but you also have a community that wants to defend the Catholic Church. So it's very difficult to get these kind of accusations out in the open. I mean, even in through courts, because the judges are all Catholic, going through newspapers because the newspapers are also protecting them. It seems like everybody in the world is protecting them in this whole thing. So like, yeah, there's even a scene. There's a story that way back in 1993 where 20 priests were being accused, but the Globe didn't really do much with it because they didn't. It's hard to get that stuff litigated.
Even when they get it, even when I've seen this movie maybe 12 times in the last year.
Really?
After having not seen it before that. All the performances are so real. I find myself fascinated watching a scene that's got the guy from Mad Men, Slattery, and Michael fucking Keaton. But Slattery is Keaton's boss, and they're both such good actors that they play it fine, but I'm watching it as I know Keaton is the way bigger actor. And, you know, anyway, everybody plays it so real. But once the files get refiled by Stanley Tucci and Ruffalo's in Florida, and they're like, get up here, get to the courthouse. We got to get these files. They're now public. Anyone can get them. He goes to the clerk, and the clerk says, oh, the Gagan case, those files are sealed.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's been refiled. They've been reopened. He's like, I can't help you. So he has to go upstairs and get a judge to write a thing that forces this guy. Comes downstairs, and the guy's like, sorry, we're closing for the day. Sleeps on the bench. Guy comes in the morning, and he hands them to him reluctantly. And he says, you can't take those. He's like, I'm going to make copies. He's like, you can't take them out of this room. He's like, can I use your copier? Like, the guy is standing in his way in every possible way he can to slow down the release of these documents. It's unreal.
When he goes to the judge, there's a great line in there, and I don't remember the exact wording, but the judge says something to the effect of, what is the morality or the ethics or whatever of printing something like this? And he says, what is the morality or the ethics of not printing
exactly
this? And then the next scene is he's down there getting the files and everything.
And he's the most angry. He goes off at
Isn't
the
he
end.
Catholic?
Well, they all are lapsed Catholic.
Yeah, he said he had quit, and he actually makes a statement that he thought he was going to go back into the church at some point. He thought this was something that he would be able to do, but now this has happened, and
he goes off the fucking rails, right?
And that's the thing about this movie. The movie is not like uncovering this thing that we thought was secret. I mean, we've known this for a long time. The story that, and I love Liev Schreiber in this because he's just so
even
understated.
there, he's everybody's boss, but that's not the actor you would think to cast for that role. You would think somebody else might need more gravitas, but he's the editor.
Well, he comes in just like Peter Sarsgaard does in Shattered Glass.
Yep.
And nobody really knows where to put this guy at first because he's very understated, and he doesn't say much. He doesn't crack jokes like the rest of everybody does. But then he comes in, and after he's interviewed Keaton about what Spotlight does and everything, there's one of the next scenes later is him just saying, you know, I think we should look into this priest molesting kids thing, and it's a good Spotlight story and everything. And this is against what they've normally done in the past because they usually figure out what stories are good enough and everything. But this guy is basically the the hero of this whole thing.
Yeah.
He gets this all set in motion.
Slatter even says, they're all in that meeting, Keaton is too, and Slatter even says, well, Spotlight has historically, had the freedom to pick their own stories. And there's this beat, and Shriver goes, would you consider picking this one?
yeah.
And then it's sobering at the end because they give you all those stats on the screen that I'm sure are now even out of date because it's an even worse problem than we thought. But it's not just Boston where this kind of stuff has happened and the cover-up has happened. It's probably every city. It's probably all over the globe.
But yeah, that's the thing about this is that Schreiber ends up saying, like, look, the story is that the higher-ups knew about it.
Yep.
And that they had been covering it up. And so that's sort of what they've been going after this whole time to sort of prove. And yeah, Ruffalo does have a great scene in this. In fact, I was like, oh yeah, he definitely got nominated for this. I was trying to think during the movie, had he been nominated for this? And then that came up and I was like, yeah, he got nominated for this.
He did get nominated for it?
Yeah, for sure. I think McAdams did too. And you're talking about real. McAdams is, I feel like, one of the realest characters in this. She doesn't really have any outbursts.
Mm-mm.
It's just the way she's doing her reporter thing. When she goes up on that, she goes to that door and that dude is just basically like, I just want you to know that I got no enjoyment out of molesting the kids. And he's like giving her everything that she wants out of the story. And she's just like, okay, all right, what, and writing this stuff down. Like, okay, so what when did this happen? Where was all this and everything? He's like, I just want you to make clear that I didn't get any enjoyment out of this. And he's like, yeah, okay, I know.
She's doing her job. I heard an interview with the actual person that Rachel McAdams is playing, and she was recounting that story, and she was like, I couldn't believe it. This is after knocking after 400 doors or something like that. Finally, someone, the actual source, is coming to me and telling me all this stuff. She was like, my mouth was open, but I had to act like she was acting. Like, oh, okay, I'm just going to act like this is a normal conversation and just jot all this stuff
you
down.
have to.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think of, A, the person that actually did that, and then B, that performance where she was matching that level of, you got to be fucking kidding me, but also I've got to be a professional and do this.
She has also the interview with the guy who is actually gay that might be the most heartbreaking part of this whole movie.
Yeah.
Because he's like talking about how, can you imagine this being your first sexual experience? This is what happens. And then he goes, and then you really are gay, and how that fucks with you later on and everything. Like that, I was just like, oh my God. He's like, there's a church right over there, it's just, it was just devastating to listen to all this. And, man, this movie is so good. I think
it's so watchable too.
Yeah, it is. I think when we were talking about best pictures of this past decade and everything, we sort of forget about this one because it doesn't seem like a best picture. It doesn't feel like it won really for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it's got to be the best or one of the best, along with Parasite.
Yeah.
Best picture winners in this decade.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And you're right. It's interesting that you've watched it so many times over the last year. I did that right after it came out, I think on Netflix for a while. Because I think we said this recently, for the terrible subject matter, it's just done so well, and it's focusing on the investigation so much that it's super watchable for the performances alone, for the editing, the pacing, stuff like that. The collaborations between Keaton and Slattery and Liev Schreiber and McAdams and all that stuff. Yeah, you're right. This movie's awesome.
It's a little over 2 hours, but it doesn't feel like it.
No, it always feels short to me.
And the post feels like it's 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it does.
Seriously, I mean, the post is not bad. I don't know. I'm not trying to drag on the post, but it is. You can't hold a candle to this movie.
No, it goes up against Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig's directorial debut, with Saoirse Ronan and Beanie Feldstein as
Beanie Feldstein.
You have Timothy Chalamet playing an asshole. He's such a mega asshole.
Well, and you got your favorite guy in this too,
Lucas Hedges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lucas Hedges.
He's had a run.
What a cool turn for his character, by the way.
Oh yeah.
God, I mean this movie, I think I loved it super high when I first watched it, and then I was like, I kind of almost like pushed it aside. I was like, nah, that was all right. It was a slice of life, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's probably better than I remember.
Interesting. I watched this last night. I am doing everything I can. Like Chris has already seen everything in the bracket because he's Chris, so he's rewatching. I'm just trying to catch up on a few there's 2 or 3 in each bracket that I haven't seen, and this was the one for this. So I finally watched it last night, and I thought it was great.
Yeah,
I would give it an A, maybe even an A+.
Mm-hmm.
I am struggling to make sense of why that was nominated for Best Picture when I think a lot of recent female coming-of-age dramedies are just as good in quality. Edge of 17, Booksmart, Easy A, I think are all as good as this.
And all those 3 you just mentioned don't have that gravitas issue with it, or what. Lady Bird feels more like a drama, feels more like those 3 that you mentioned are very much comedies, even though they have drama and everything. And they also advertise themselves, although I don't think Edge of 17. Well, Edge of 17 was kind of raunchy, a little bit, at least yeah. So like Easy A wasn't terribly raunchy, but I mean, like they have this I don't know, sorority frat vibe to them. Whereas Lady Bird does.
Well, and I felt that way before I watched it. I felt like I was getting ready to watch a film with more gravitas, and it ended up playing. It is more dramatic than those 3, but it ended up playing as much comedy as drama to me, and I loved it.
It is funny.
I loved it. Man, I thought it was great.
There's some moments in here rewatching that I completely forgot about. There's a scene that some scene ends, it cuts to this next scene, and she's talking to Beanie Feldstein outside the lockers. And she goes, I think it's natural not to touch a penis. That's the opening line of that scene.
I really liked Laurie Metcalf in this.
She's awesome.
And I'll be honest, I did not know she was in it. Like,
oh yeah,
all that I took from Lady Bird from all of its Whirlwind Awards season press was Greta Gerwig wrote and directed, and Saoirse Ronan is great.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I knew. I think I might have known Chalamet was in there, but I didn't even know Laurie Metcalf was in it.
Metcalf got nominated for this.
Well, see, I wasn't paying attention then, but she's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's every bit as good as anyone else in this movie, and she has maybe the most thankless role.
So, well, it's a complicated character because she's not all evil and she's not all good.
She is the one that has to be the bad guy in the parent dynamic, because the Tracy Letts character is always like whatever is cool with me.
But she also goes like that 10%
just
mean,
a little bit, yeah.
Like especially the dress buying scene and stuff like that.
Saoirse Ronan's character is kind of a litie shit in this movie.
She is. That's the thing, is that because she's the protagonist, we forgive her, but she's kind of a dickhead.
Yeah, she is.
Which is what makes it at the end, I think, when they sort of have that phone call or they reconcile or whatever.
Yeah.
They both have reason to reconcile.
And from what I understand, that's a very typical mother-daughter type of relationship where you say mean shit that you don't really mean, and you kind of needle each other, even though one's supposed to be the adult there. Like it's hard to keep that dynamic. Sometimes you slip.
Yeah. I love too, right after she turns 18, she goes to that gas station and she's like, I'd like to get some cigarettes, a scratcher, and a Playgirl. And so the guy like gets all the stuff and goes, I just want you to know that I'm getting all this stuff because I turned 18 today. And he goes, happy birthday.
Playgirl.
And she's looking at the Playgirl, dude's like wangs hanging out and everything. Just sitting there smoking a cigarette.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. It's going up against Spotlight. Where we want to vote on this?
Oh boy, I'm Spotlight.
We're all pretty simpatico on these picks
today.
At least today.
Yeah.
Spotlight is an important movie. It's a well acted movie. This is. Time will tell, but I think it could be just as watchable and as important as something like All the President's Men later on. And I think people will be talking about it in 30 years. Lady Bird, yes, they will be talking about it, but kind of down the list. So Spotlight for me.
I will also be
down
going
a little. Is that what you said?
Down the list.
Oh, down the list.
Things people.
I will also be picking Spotlight.
So have we only had one, like, against the grain pick all day?
Yeah, I picked Black Panther.
We were unanimous on every other one, right?
I think we have been.
Yeah.
This one's going to be a tough one too, though.
Yeah, I'm glad you saved this one for last because we're having a discussion.
This
here.
is going to be a rough fucking one right here. 4th seed Whiplash versus the 13th seed The Town, and whatever wins this goes up against Spotlight. So yeah, I watched these two again. I had not seen Whiplash probably for I don't know a year or two, somewhere in there. I haven't seen The Town probably in a year or two even. But yeah, I had to watch these again because that matchup. I was like, whoa, I don't know.
I'm so glad you watched Whiplash again.
I love both of these movies so much, but let's talk about Whiplash first. This movie really does bore down on that whole obsession thing, right? Like if you really want to be good at something, I have to be there. I have to do it 24/7, and I have to
dump your girlfriend.
Dump your girlfriend. Dump Melissa Benoist. Come on now.
Is she Supergirl? Is that their
Yeah.
other thing? Yeah.
But not only we do it 24/7, but take as much abuse as possible.
Yeah.
This movie is weird in its way of like, I don't know if it justifies it or not. It almost feels like it justifies J.K. Simmons in this movie, his actions. Do you think it even takes him to task for this?
It does,
oh man,
I think it does both.
The first time I saw the movie,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the movie was saying, see, J.K. Simmons was right. He had it in him the whole time. It just had to be pulled out of him. First time I saw it.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything else right now.
Okay.
That's all I want to say. But I didn't feel that strongly the second time I saw it. I do think it's a nuanced character who is more evil than good. But I think the movie itself is conflicted on how much of that was necessary or not to get Miles Teller where he needed to go.
That's what I'm saying. I think it does both. I think it both vilifies and I think it justifies his actions.
It doesn't seem to think that there's a balance, though. It doesn't seem to think that there is. You can have you can have a life along with this. You know, it seems to be saying that if you drum your hands bloody and you just let people throw shit at you and everything, you'll become the best, and that's what you want to do to be the best. Like it feels like there's other people out there that could have put an example of some sort of somebody who didn't go through any kind of. They picked Charlie Parker as the one, but like there's no other examples in here of anybody like had like maybe a good. Didn't have any of that pushing or anything.
Sure, yeah. Movie, picks a side, basically.
I'm not even saying that would make the movie bad
Mhm.
or is a bad part of the movie. It's just very strange to me that it seems like J.K. Simmons is pretty evil in this. His motivations seem to be rooted in some like, I want to be the best too, but
there's some kind of respect between them at the end. When
When
Teller is going off and rocking it and J.K. Simmons is realizing, oh, this kid is the shit, there's almost a respect between them. And that's what murkies it for me, is that it almost feels like Teller, his character, thinks J.K. Simmons' actions were maybe okay to get him to this point.
Well, that whole last act of the movie is what puts doubt into it, right? Because otherwise, he's beaten him, or essentially, right? Like
Because he got him fired.
Yeah, he got him fired, and he beat his ass on stage too. Even before it gets to that point, to where like he's had the car wreck and all that stuff, and he tackles dude on stage. Even before that, he shows up late to that performance, and he's like, and J.K. Simmons is like, "Where the fuck have you been?" He's like, "Dude's gonna play your part," and he's like, "Fuck you, he's gonna play your part." And J.K. Simmons is like, "What the fuck did you just say to me?"
He's the first.
Like,
he's
all
got
of
to
a
be the
sudden-
first person to stand up to this guy in
He looks
forever.
like he smacked him in the face.
Yeah, because if we ever do theater stories again, I don't know if I ever told the story, but I've had a manager that was like that, and I refused to be talked to the way that J.K. Simmons talks to Teller in this movie, and it looks like Teller decided the same thing. Like, look, I'm awesome at drumming. You either like me or you don't, and I'm going to do this part. We haven't even started yet. You know that I'm better than this chode that's on the drums. That dude that he takes in to like spark him or whatever is a shitty ass drummer, man.
Is that the Irish one?
Yeah, the
oh my
redhead
god,
dude.
when he's auditioning technically auditioning those drummers, that's one of the greatest scenes. It's hilarious. First of all, it starts off with him ending the performance and going, "Motherfucker!"
Yeah.
And he's like, "I apologize to the musician, take an hour or whatever." And he's cycling through these drummers and everything. He calls them the most awful shit,
does.
man. He's like, I mean, he's talking about Miles Teller's parents. He's talking about the homosexual guy. He's talking about the Irish guy. Like, it's just absolutely nasty. But then, like an hour into it or whatever, he starts. Finally, Miles Teller is getting. We're saying Miles Teller, but whatever his character's name is, I forget. That's where he's like the faster, and it's like great. Like he's just right up in his face.
Yeah,
it's. I've done a lot of
something very American about this, isn't there? Like I played Little League. I remember coaches screaming at me. I'm 11 years old and use both hands, like screaming at me. And I'm a kid, but we accept it. And I know a lot of people who were in band in high school, and everyone has a story about a demon band director who screamed at people. I'm sure that's the inspiration for J.K. Simmons. And some of this trickles down maybe from like drill sergeants or movies or what have you, but like football coaches are always screaming at their players, sure. Young or old. Like, why are we so sure that this is a good motivating method?
You know, it's weird because you just watched this recently. It's weird. I've thought about what's this guy's deal? What's Fletcher's deal? Like, what's J.K. Simmons' character's deal? Because he's got a history of obviously driving people to even potentially harming themselves and things like that. You don't see him scream at really anybody else in the movie except for the percussion section.
Well, yeah, he does yell at the trombone guy. I think it's trombone.
Oh yeah, he kicks him out of the practice.
Well,
or whatever
it's actually a fun scene, even though he's being an asshole. But like, he's like he gets certain sections to play their part, and he's like, "There's somebody out of tune here," and he gets to this one section. Oh, it's right here. It's right here, and he's like. And he goes to the one guy and he's like, "Are you out of tune or are you not?" And then the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm out of tune." He's like, "Get the fuck out of here." Then. and then he comes back to his easel or whatever. And he goes, "Actually, it was you that was out of tune," pointing to some other dude. But since he doesn't even know, it's even worse.
Well, I mean, so my point is that like he's got a history of going too far, obviously.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time maybe that he's gone this far, and I think it's because he sees the talent in the Miles Teller character, and that's why he just goes absolutely ballistic. I think we're seeing him at his absolute peak of the asshole that he can be because he's singularly focused, and I think it's a very human story because I think that happens.
Ultimately, he does say before the climax of this movie, he does say that what would have happened with Charlie Parker if he didn't get a cymbal thrown at his head. And then he would have been like, "Oh, well, I guess I did play that pretty good." And then he would have never gone back and been as awesome as he was a year later when he's playing. And that's where he gets that whole, there's no two words that are worse in the English language than nice job.
I love that line, and it just absolutely drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I want to punch that guy so hard.
Does the movie tell us much about his life before? Because I have to imagine it's one of two things. Either he was a very, very, very extremely talented musician who missed his chance, or he was never very good as a musician, but his ear is perfect.
I don't think, and Chrissy can tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think they give really any background outside of the band besides that bar scene of Fletcher's character.
Right. No, not at all.
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to assume that he is maybe possibly a failed musician.
Yeah.
Because we see him playing in that jazz band piano thing, and then there's a sort of an interesting interplay too when Teller talks about his dad, talking about Paul Reiser's character, where he says he tried to be this, but now he's a teacher, and and he doesn't mean that for all teachers.
Mhm.
Right.
But in a way, it seems like it hits J.K. Simmons in a certain way when he says that Paul Reiser was supposed to be this big hot shit thing. Now he's a teacher.
Just
and it
like you.
feels like that's what he's saying about J.K. Simmons. So I feel like he's a failed musician of some sort, and now he's become the dickhead dad who wants to have live vicariously. through
Yeah,
his
see,
students
that's what
and
I was
everything.
feeling too. Like the guy who was great in college sports but didn't make the pros, so he pushes his son to be even better than he was.
Like the dad in Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
Like the dad in Varsity Blues.
And you know what Miles Teller should have told him?
I don't want your life.
Or the dad in Friday Night Lights, Tim McGraw. He's the same way.
He was the same way.
He tapes the ball to his hands.
Only he was drunk.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's drunk. It goes up against The Town, Ben Affleck's
The Town.
Ben Affleck's second movie that he made. He made Gone Baby Gone, and then he did this. And-
Arguably, even though he's only directed 4 movies, he's got obviously a variety of tastes. Because Gone Baby Gone is this like depressing character study drama, and then The Town is this basically a modern day Heat, like guns firing, bank robbing, crime thriller. And then he does Argo, which is almost like a little indie piece, and then he does that booze running gangster. He's got different tastes, is all I'm saying.
And he's so geographically diverse, too.
Yes,
Right?
Boston,
Iran.
Yeah.
and Boston. Well, they go to Tampa for most of that last movie. I think, especially with The Town, but even Gone Baby Gone, the fact that he sets it in Boston is a great thing for the movie because Affleck knows Boston. He's from Boston. Tim LaHaye, who wrote the book, is write most of his books in Boston, right? Like the Sean Penn one with
Dennis LaHaye?
Dennis LaHaye. What did I say? Tim LaHaye?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
he's the
Dennis Lehane.
Dennis Lehane. Tim LaHaye is the guy that wrote all those Left Behind books. Sorry. I'm pretty sure that guy sets his books in Boston almost always,
Yeah, I
like
think
Stephen
so.
King
Yeah,
sets his shit in Maine. But that pays off both because of how he shoots the locations, but just knowing like the neighborhood. Even Gone Baby Gone feels like you're fucking part of that neighborhood. Like you get seeped in it.
Is it Charlestown? Is that the
Charlestown,
town?
yeah.
Charlestown, the town. Apparently, it's like this little one
And-
section, and the movie even says like some huge percentage of bank robbers come from this one little town area.
Yeah. It's the number one in creating these armed robbery and everything. And there's even a point where I think it's after that the beginning robbery where John Hamm they say they closed the bridge down between Maine, Boston, and Charlestown because it's probably somebody from Charlestown whenever a bank gets robbed.
Oh, wow.
So they automatically shut that bridge down whenever something like that happens.
Wow.
Now that's probably some bullshit they threw in for the movie, but that's what they do in the movie.
That's fine.
I think at least the idea that a high percentage of bank robbers come from this neighborhood is probably real. But even Affleck's character's dad was, sticking up money trucks. And then he ended up shooting one of them, which is why they made the rule that one guy always has to stay in the car. They wrote in the whole rule of armored cars based on this guy. I fucking love this movie. There's not a section of it that drags. Everyone is cast perfect. I'm not sure Jeremy Renner has ever been better.
Oh, I don't think he has.
And even the two sidekicks that don't get much time, like the fat guy that drives and the skinny little kid that works for the electric company, have just the right amount of moments. Rebecca Hall, not Ferguson, is great in this movie. You can really feel Affleck wanting to get out of this life, not just because it's dangerous or there's heat on him, but now he has something hopeful to look forward to in this relationship. And I just fucking love it.
What is her deal in this movie? Like, what does she do? She's like a professional that does.
She's
the banker.
She's the bank manager.
That's right.
And they kidnap her and take her hostage and put her out on a beach or something. And
They get to the meet before Renner's character shows up, and one goes, "We're taking hostages now?"
Yeah.
I was like, "No, we're not," because
Yeah.
Renner's the hothead who takes the hostage and then later shoots the armored car guard. And
he's the one who pounds his rifle into dude's skull and like nearly beats him to death before Affleck comes over.
Oh, it's dude from Alias, Victor Garber.
Yeah, it's Victor Garber.
I just love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. If I am flipping, I always stop if I know it's in the middle, a.k.a. the armored car heist, where they do the minivan chase through the tiny Boston streets, and that chase is exhilarating. That's how you drive a fucking car. And then the Fenway heist from beginning to end, starting from the moment they're getting the breakdown from Pete Postlethwaite. And he says, ripping off the Cathedral of Boston, priceless. And then it cuts to Affleck and Renner at Fenway watching a game, and Affleck's like, this is going to be a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And Renner's like, hey, if it were easy, everybody would do it. From there all the way to the end of the movie is just a ride.
I get the sense, and then maybe this was on purpose, but whenever he and Renner are talking privately in this movie, they really throw out that Boston accent more than they ever do in any other part of the movie.
Come down and visit me in Florida.
Yeah, they're both like really trying to get out Boston each other and everything in this scene. You were talking about Renner. I think maybe the only performance you could put up against it is Hurt Locker, which came out the previous year.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I guess he's in the middle of his like super intense period here before he's in the Avengers.
Do you know whether a dollar bill is over or under 6 inches?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought this up because I know it's over because of what John Hamm said.
Yes.
But I wanted to bring up John Hamm in this movie. John Hamm is great in this movie.
Yep.
But I feel like he has almost maybe been typecast since this movie. He is an FBI agent. He is an FBI agent in almost everything now.
Richard Jewell,
Bad Times at El Royale.
Oh yeah.
Probably some more. But
it's funny that you say that about Bad Times at El Royale, because he's playing that character so well in the movie that I kind of forget that he's an FBI agent. He's more of like the vacuum salesman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that moment at the end when Affleck does not show up at his girlfriend's house, and they've been waiting all day. And John Hamm comes out to his car, and there's a note on the windshield, and he opens it up. It reads, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
And there's just some rando FBI guy walking by, and John Hamm goes, "Here, it's for you."
Well, yeah, you're right. The cast is top to bottom fantastic. Blake Lively is amazing.
Blake Lively is terrific in this.
She's
and she now it's weird. Like it's. I don't feel like Lively has really shown much to me in the past in a lot of movies, but she's terrific in that, and then also that Anna Kendrick movie,
Simple Favor.
Mm-hmm. She's terrific in that as well. She has the capability of being that actress.
I mean, she really, besides Gossip Girl, she hasn't done a whole lot up until 2010, right?
Well, I mean, she was in that Oliver Stone movie,
Savages,
where
she's having a three-way relationship with Evan Peters.
I think it's Taylor Kitsch, and it's
not Evan Peters. It's Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I just watched this like a week ago. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's not a good movie at all. But it looked like she was kind of giving it the old college try in that, but I didn't think she was really good.
She was in Green Lantern.
Yeah, she's in Green Lantern, and obviously she's in this movie, this rhythm section, which I think is getting all the headlines for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Like one of the biggest opening movies and least amount of money made by this amount of theaters, screens.
Oh, yeah.
Something
No one went to see it.
Yeah, nobody saw it, but yeah, she's awesome in this.
Yeah.
She's great in this.
She even, when she's in the hospital, she's basically boozed up every time she's on screen. But John Hamm comes to the hospital because he knows he's got her now, and she's going to have to give him something. And she's like, "You're the Crime Stopper. Figure it the fuck out."
Yeah.
Oh, God damn, this is a tough matchup.
And then he tells, I love this too, where he's like, "How long did you go out with him? Did he give you a diamond necklace?"
Yeah, man. He totally plays her.
Yeah,
totally.
Totally plays her, and it works perfectly.
Yeah. It is a tough matchup. The reason why it is such a tough matchup is because I feel like the town has like more going on in it. Like it's
sure.
It's got more plot wise. It's got a lot of action to it. Whiplash has some action, but it's mainly that last 10 minutes of the movie. where Teller's going on that huge like solo and everything.
I know, but that also has one of the best driver coming in to T-bone the other driver shots I've ever seen, because it's the least expected that I think I've ever seen, because you're focused on him getting there. He's calling the guy a motherfucker on the way back to the performance, and then all of a sudden it's not only a car, it's a goddamn Mack truck that runs, and it's not even like full on. You just see like through the top of the window from on top of his head. And
he definitely shouldn't have survived that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He definitely shouldn't be able to drum.
And then he shouldn't. Well, he technically doesn't.
That's true. He's like passing out.
He shouldn't be able to run to the thing, and then he shouldn't. But the reason why he can't drum is because he's got blood all over him. But there's the intensity of Whiplash is insane, and the overall goodness of the town is insane.
Yeah. I need your help. We're going to hurt some people, and you can never tell anybody about it. Whose car we taking?
Whose car we taking? Okay. I will go ahead and pull off this Band-Aid. I like Whiplash better.
Fuck. I'm voting the town, but I know where it's going.
You know, this matchup in particular is harder than I thought, because Whiplash has grown to be one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I know. That's why I know the town is dead.
But the town is up there in the top 50 or so.
Deserve to be in the bracket.
I also have a weird thing with the town, because I had dinner in the Green Monster the night that that Affleck was premiering the town in Fenway.
Oh shit!
So I wasn't there for the premiere, but we were eating there as they were setting up.
You were breathing
the
the same air as Affleck.
That's right.
This is like me and Kevin Smith
in the Cathedral of Boston.
In the Cathedral of Boston.
Whiplash for sure. Whiplash.
Yeah.
Whiplash all day. Whiplash!
Whoop-pow!
With this whippy tail.
That was the reason why I watched both of these again, was just because I looked at that matchup just going, I have no idea where to go with that.
If you hadn't, do you think you would have leaned towards the town?
No, I would have gone Whiplash
really?
Probably. Watching the town again was instructive to the decision, but I think that, you know, I think just Whiplash, that last 9-10 minutes of him doing that solo is insane. And what I love about it, and it's giving me chills thinking about it right now, is that he does first off, he does that wind down thing, that and then Simmons is like, all right, move it up, and it's and he goes through that whole thing again, and then it's like both of them, like, you know, yeah, that was the fucking it right there, baby. No applause, straight to credits.
Yeah.
And it gives me chills thinking about it. It's just that if this were, let's say this were a movie where it was done in the 80s, and you know, John Avildsen, who did Karate Kid and Rocky, did this movie, it would be like everybody's cheering, and there's like these knowing looks across everything.
Shot of his dad.
Yeah, shot of his dad. They totally said fuck Paul Reiser at the end of this. He's kind of looking in and like, oh my God, my son's doing it, but we don't even know what he feels about this.
Yeah.
He could be conflicted about this. Like,
sure.
Yeah, he's doing awesome, but at what expense?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that. It just, he gets done with it, and he's like, and they're like, and that's it. It goes straight to the credits.
Yep.
Fucking love it. Whiplash will be going up against Spotlight. Woo! That'll be another big.
Wow. I'm gonna have to watch these again.
Be another hard one. Another hard one. All right, so we are done with the East region. We're done with the left side of the bracket. We'll be going probably to the South region on the next one. So,
that's gonna be a
South
good
region's got a bunch of, like, it's funny. We do this intense shit where we're doing all these movies, and then you go over and you're like, oh, there's a whole bunch more. All right, what did you guys think? What do you think the bracket's going the way you think it should be going right now? Go to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We also have Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter. We're also on SoundCloud. We have a Discord. If you want to get on Discord, you can go to the Reddit page and find a link on the right side, or you can go to the private messages and I will give you a link there. But that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
There is nothing I like better than having things come down to my loins.
Shit. I swear to God, I said that name 100 times this morning.
Oh, really?
Guadagnino.
It doesn't seem to have helped.
It's like Chloe Sevigny. Chloe Sevigny. It took until she got nominated for an Oscar for me to actually hear that name pronounced.
I thought it was Savini.
I did too. That's what I said. That's what I would say.
You said Sevigny. Is it Sevigny?
It's I don't actually now that you've said this, I don't even know if I heard it on the Oscars the correct way. Like I don't even know if I remember the Oscars how they said it. I always thought it was 70
with no ng?
With no nya in it.
I got you.
But it could be that they said 7 and I just didn't hear it. Whatever. But I'd always heard I'd heard Savini, and then 70 was what I heard when she got nominated for Boys Don't Cry.
I was going to ask what she got nominated for. That's her only nomination, probably, right?
That and Brown Bunny.
Yeah, and it was her boyfriend.
It was.
You remember that whole arc on Entourage where Billy wanted Vince to give him a blowjob on his art movie?
I think so. Yeah,
and he was like, "No, man, you can't do that. You can't be blowing a man on the screen." And he's like, "Man, I'm going to do whatever Billy tells me to do." And so at the end of the episode, he goes to Billy. He's like, "Billy, I'll do it." And Billy's like, "I just wanted to make sure that you would do it. I'm not going to make you do it."
It's like when God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son.
Exactly like that.
And then when he was about to, God was like, "I'm just kidding. Don't actually kill him.
Just give me a blowjob."
I hope my dad never listens to this. Or I hope he also never watches Brown Bunny to even get the context.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched The Brown Bunny?
I saw it in L.A.
He saw it at the theater.
Really? That movie is fucking terrible.
Yes, it is. But
watch me pump gas for 10 minutes.
What kills me is that I think he came out with a version at festivals that was longer, and Ebert famously came out and said that this movie's terrible, and then Gallo came out and called Ebert fat and all this other shit, and then Ebert says, while I have the chance to not be fat, you'll always be the director of the Brown Bunny.
Nice.
And then
classic.
But then I think he made edits to it, and the one that I saw was the edited one. And then Ebert was like, "Now this movie's good."
Oh no!
And I was like, "What? You still see him wash his car in real time?" There's a point in there where he's like begging this girl to like come go out with him, and he's like, "Please." For like it feels like 10 minutes.
Oh my god.
and then he finally runs into Chloe Sevigny, and it's blowjob time.
I don't even know. Buffalo 66, I thought I haven't seen since I saw it in the theater. Probably saw it at the Belcourt or Nipper's Corner or something like that.
At least it had plot.
It did, and I enjoyed it because it was unusual, but I probably, if I go back and watch it now, I bet it's like too indulgent and really annoying.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since
could
the
be.
one time.
I don't know. I think that movie's actually good, and
I thought it was good
at
at the
time. Brown
time.
Bunny is his like, well, I'm going to be an artist now. I remember him like being pissed off. Well, not pissed off, but like criticizing Wes Anderson because Wes Anderson goes around and basically writes the script and shows the movie to his friends, and then they make sort of like edits and trims based on what the friends say or whatever. And he's like, well, that's not how you make movies and all that. And it's like, who gives a fuck how people make movies, man?
Yeah, I wonder if he's mellowed out in old age. He seemed like a salty asshole.
Yeah.
A salty asshole who had made like a movie and a half.
Well, I'm trying to think, what was his follow-up to Buffalo 66?
I think
I
Brown
saw
Bunny.
I thought it was Brown Bunny. I thought he made 2 movies.
Is that all he's made?
My point is, he hasn't made enough to be the guy telling you how movies are made.
Especially not fucking Wes Anderson.
I'm not telling anybody how to make movies. I mean, I am in
You tell people-
character,
yeah,
but
yeah.
not in real life.
It looks like he's got a couple of maybe like music video things.
Oh, of course. All right. So then basically he's...
and then it's Brown Bunny.
He's Spielberg. See, he can tell us. He's made music videos, so he knows.
Is John Frusciante, Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Yeah, he's the guitarist.
Yeah.
Or he was the guitarist. He's been fired like 4 times.
He's done a bunch of stuff with him, apparently. I guess it was his solo stuff. Anyway.
They look alike.
He washed his car in real time once.
He probably did. And filmed it.
Maybe sucks
It. He's
ass.
probably got like a bunch of movies at the Museum of Modern Art where he's just washing his car.